Hello students, this is Anil Kadle here. In this session, I shall deal with performance factors of computer architecture. In the last class, I had just considered Flint's classification. You know that in Flint's classification, we had single instruction, single data architecture, which is actually sequential machines or von Neumann machines. The next is multiple instruction, multiple data. Actually, this is a pure parallel computer. The third one is single instruction, multiple data. Multiple data is there, but only one instruction. This is generally a vector computer. We call it as vector computer. The last one, multiple instruction and single data. We generally take multiple instruction, single data as pipeline computing. Generally, all these three are one or the other way parallel computing only. These four classification, whatever are there, they are very important. Flint's classification. The next concept which I would like to tell you is regarding development layers of computer system. Development layer of computer system. Let us see this slide where there are 6 layers for computer system for development. The first or topmost layer is application layer, where on top of this application layer you will be dealing with different applications. As I have told you, there may be scientific application, there may be some say space related applications, or there may be data related, network related applications, like that. Application layer deals with that. But actually the application layer or application which you develop depends upon the programming environment. With what programming environment you develop this application, that is the next layer. And the system, what kind of languages the system support, will be the third layer. And the fourth is communication model or communication layer, which try to relate the top with the below. Here the machine dependent, like operating systems, memory related and hardware architecture, they are taken as the beneath layers where they depend upon the machine. And the top layers, application layers, programming layers and language layers, they are machine independent. Generally we need to see to that there is a coordination between the top layers and the bottom layers, or the architecture layers and application layers. It is very difficult for us to achieve a coordination between these two, but some programming languages like C, C++, Pascal, all these support on most of the computers. But as a programmer point of view, he would like to know what exact architecture is developed in the system. Generally a transparency is required. We call it as Linda approach. And the transparency, we call it as Linda approach. Anyway, these are the 6 layers, where top layer we write applications, and the bottom layer we are writing kernel programming, which depends upon the machine. This is 6 layers of computer system development. I hope you understood this. Next, let us see system attributes affecting the performances. System attributes affecting the performance. Let us see the system attributes affecting performance of a computer system. Obviously, what do you mean by performance? You see, computer system want to do some task so that it can execute a program or algorithm, isn't it? Hence, the performance mainly depends upon execution of a given program. But what happens is, for ideal performance, a computer system demands a match between computer machine architecture and the program behavior. There must be match between, I can say that, perfect match between system architecture and program behavior. This is very much essential. See, what happens is, machine architecture depends upon different factors. It depends upon different factors like what is the hardware technology, what is the memory technology, etc. Whereas the program behavior, it depends upon different other things like what is an algorithm, what is the data structure, what is the language you have used, what is the programming skill. On all this, the program behavior depends. So as to execute a given task, there must be a perfect match between these two, which is very difficult to find, and hence peak performance is what we call peak performance is very difficult to achieve. Peak performance is very difficult to achieve. One should note this. Okay. Hence what happens is, the performance of a system is distributed over a tasks. A one computer which is good for one performance or one task may not be good for other. Hence, the performances are distributed, okay, over a range of different programs. One should note this. Generally, we consider the performance with the help of execution or turnaround time. We call it as turnaround time. Okay, what do you mean by turnaround time? See, the turnaround time means it is the time taken by the processor to execute a given program. Okay, turnaround time means it is the time taken by the processor to execute a given task or a given program. Okay, that is called as turnaround time. See, the turnaround time depends upon different things. Okay, generally it depends upon what type of memory access, what type of input output, and what is the compilation time, what is the operating system overhead, what is the CPU time. On all this, the turnaround time depends. Okay, this is one of the factors what we call turnaround time, but that turnaround time is also called as processor time. Okay, hence we will consider turnaround time and elaborate on the processor time, what exactly is meant by processor time and what is the performance factors, okay, for the processor time. First is clock rate. First is clock rate and cycles per instruction, CPI, what we call cycles per instruction. You know that obviously any system is driven by a clock, isn't it? Any system is driven by a clock and the performance depends upon the clock speed. Hence, the clock cycle period, we call it as tau. Tau, this is called as clock period. You know that the frequency of the system, it is 1 over tau, okay, and it is frequency. You know that as the frequency is increased, the clock period becomes small, the execution becomes fast. Very simple. You know that 500 megahertz system, now today you will find 2.5 gigahertz systems, okay. Hence, the frequency is 1 over time period. Now, the next thing, whatever is required, is instruction count, IC. We are discussing about clock rate and cycles per instruction. Next is instruction count. Instruction count is nothing but number of machine instructions to be executed for a given program. Total number of instructions. Okay, total number of instructions to execute a given program. Okay, now we should see what exactly is cycles per instruction. You see, the cycles per instruction means the number of cycles per instruction. That's all. Number of cycles per instruction. See, this factor depends upon which type of machine. Okay, and from program to program, from machine to machine, this may alter. Why? Say there may be a simple instruction like add two numbers. Okay, the add instruction, whatever is there, no, that may take 2 cycles in case of RISC machines. The same add instruction may take 5 instruction in case of CISC machines. Hence, cycles per instruction depends upon the machine as well as the program in which you are using. From program to program also it may change in what context, where you have used. Hence, so as to overcome this, we talk about average cycles per instructions. Average cycles per instructions. See, for a given program, for a given instruction, an average is found, and that is considered as cycles per instruction. Okay, the next concept is this is very important factor, CPI. Okay, the next concept is regarding CPU time. We call it as processor time. Okay, processor time. Very simple, the time taken by the processor to execute a given program. Actually, this is nothing but turnaround time, but whereas turnaround time depends upon some overheads, but CPU time is particularly for the processor. This is the time taken by the processor to execute a program. Execute a program or task. Now, you know that the time taken by the CPU or the processor depends upon total number of instruction, obviously total number of instruction multiplied by cycles per instruction. Cycles per instruction. How many average cycles per instruction is taken by the instructions, total instructions, multiplied by time period, tau or clock period. This is the turnaround time, or actually the processor time. But you please note that the cycles per instruction depends upon 2 things. There may be processor operation, there may be memory operation. Hence, the cycles per instruction depends upon 2 factors, memory related as well as processor related. Just if you take add A, B itself, what is the process that is happening here? First is instruction fetch, isn't it? Instruction fetch operation. You have to fetch this instruction add. Okay, and then what you will be doing is you will be decoding the instruction add. Next, you will understand after decoding it is the process of adding A and B. What you do next is operand fetch operation, isn't it? Operand fetch operation. You have to bring both A and B, and after this the next process is actually to execute adding A and B. Last is storing the result. This is how an instruction takes place if at the processor. This is the cycle that is happening. Okay, Now if you see this, there are three instructions related with the memory. First is instruction fetch, from where you are fetching this instruction add from memory. Decoding, where the decoding takes place. Decoding takes place in the processor. Hence this is processor related operation. This is memory related operation. Operand fetch, from where you are bringing or where you are fetching the operands A and B from memory, obviously memory operation. Execution, where you are executing, this is a processor execution. Processor does the execution, isn't it? This is processor cycle. The last cycle is storing, where you are storing, it is memory or register related operation, hence it is M. If you see a single instruction add, although there are 5 different operations, out of that 3 related with memory, 2 related with processor. Hence a instruction cycle depends upon memory operation as well as processor operation. Hence we shall divide cycles per instruction as processor related plus memory related, but there is a latency whenever memory operations are there. No, there is a latency. The cycles per instruction, as I just told you, depends upon processor operation plus memory related operation, but memory related operation is considered as slightly different. It involves latency, it is slightly slow, hence we are bringing the latency factor K here. Hence this is what is cycles per instruction. Hence if I substitute this, the total CPU time is given by total number of instructions multiplied by cycles per instruction, but cycle per instruction depends upon processor plus memory into tau. Hence these 5 factors, whatever I am talking now, instructions count, processor operation, memory operation, latency and time period, these are the 5 factors which are considered as performance factors. Okay, these are very important. Let us relate this to the system attributes. Let us relate this with the system attributes in the further next slide. Okay, please note that this is how the CPU time depends. It is very simple. Total time of execution for a processor is directly depends upon total number of instructions multiplied by average cycle per instruction multiplied by time period. Again, CPI depends upon 2 factors, processor and memory, and that's what is the equation. This is a very important equation. Let us relate this with the system attributes in the next slide. Okay, in the last class, last session or the last slide, we saw 5 performance factors. First is instruction count. Next is cycles per instruction. But the cycles per instruction depends upon the processor cycle, memory cycle, and the memory latency. Okay, and the cycle time. Obviously, the performance factors are 5. Those are instruction count, processor, memory latency, and cycle time. These 5 performance factors depends upon 4 system attributes. Actually, the architecture or the computer system, whatever is there, no, the development of that 4 factors. First is instruction set architecture. How the instruction set architecture is there, RISC, CISC, all those factors. What kind of compiler technology is there, processor implementation and control. And the 4th one is memory, cache memory and hierarchy. On these 4 factors, the performance depends. First is instruction count. Obviously, the instruction count depends upon instruction set architecture as well as on compiler technology. These 2 factors control the instruction count. Next, the processor cycle. Obviously, the processor cycle depends upon the instruction architecture, compiler technology and the processor implementation and control. Obviously, the mainly depends upon the processor implementation and control. Also, these 2 factors affect the processor cycle. The third, memory reference or memory cycle depends on compiler technology. Okay, compiler technology. The memory latency mainly depends upon the cache memory. Okay, cache memory and hierarchy. how the registers are arranged, how the processor is allotted with the memory. On those factors, the memory latency depends. The cycle time, whatever is, cycle time, that depends upon processor implementation and control as well as memory. Hence, these 5 performance factors are related with 4 instruction system attributes. Okay, in this manner, this table gives you an idea of that. Okay, let us proceed further with some important terminologies like first is MIPS rate, or this is also called as million instruction per second. Million instruction per second. Let us see what exactly is this. Okay, let us elaborate on this now. Now, you know that we have already seen the CPU time, that is CPU time, the total time taken by the CPU to execute a given program, isn't it? Now, this is another way of denoting the performance of the system, that is million instructions per second. Okay, let us consider a few things. First is C. Let us consider C. C is total number of clock needed to execute a given program. Let us see, take this C, total number of clock cycles needed to execute. Okay. Now, you know that one cycle takes period of tau. Okay, one cycle takes tau period. Now, how many total number of cycles taken by the processor to execute? C number of cycles. Hence, processor time T is given by C multiplied by tau, isn't it? C multiplied by tau. Now, this also can be given by C by F, because tau is 1 by F. Tau is 1 by F. Hence, total number of processor time T is given by C by F or C into tau. Now, cycles per instruction, you know that cycles per instruction is given by total number of cycles divided by total number of instruction, that is total cycles divided by total instructions. This is cycles per instruction, C by IC. Now you know that this, if you consider C becomes equal to IC into CPI. I just substitute here, C is equal to IC into cycles per instruction, and if I substitute this here, CPU time becomes equal to instructions multiplied by cycles per instruction divided by F. Okay, this is one of the equation. Let us take simple example so as to understand the different terminologies like MIPS rate, CPU time, clock frequency, instructions count, and cycles per instruction. All this concept let us relate with this example. There are two machines given. Machine 1 or S1 is running at frequency of 500 megahertz and its performance measure is 100 MIPS. Okay, and CPU time taken to execute a performance or a single operation or a program is 12x seconds. The same program is executed by second machine S2, which is running at 2.5 gigahertz, and the MIPS rate of that machine is 1800, and CPU time taken by that machine is x seconds for the same benchmark or same program. Now let us evaluate the performances. First is instructions count. You know that MIPS rate is given by total instructions divided by total CPU time and there is 10 raised to 6 factor here so as to accumulate this million instructions per second, isn't it? This implies me that instruction count is given by MIPS rate multiplied by T into 10 raised to 6. Let us apply this for the machine 1. IC1 is equal to MIPS 1. What is million instruction? 100. Okay. Into time period taken 12x. CPU time taken is 12x multiplied by 10 raised to 6. This is instruction count for the first machine. Let us evaluate for the second machine. IC2 MIPS rate 1800. Okay. Into T is taken x into 10 raised to 6 factor is there. Now if you see that instructions count for the second machine, IC2 divided by IC1, if I do IC2 divided by IC1, if I do 1800 into x into 10 raised to 6 whole divided by 1200, this is 1200 into x into 10 raised to 6 into x into 10 raised to 6. Everything cancels out, giving you 1.5. That means instruction count for the second machine is 1.5 times more than instructions count for the first machine. Please note this. Instructions count for the second machine is more, 1.5 times more than instructions count of the first machine. Now let us evaluate the cycles per instructions. Okay, cycles per instructions, CPI. Now you know that there is one formula given in the previous slide. MIPS rate is given by F divided by cycles per instructions into 10 raised to 6. I want to know cycles per instructions, isn't it? CPI is given by F divided by MIPS rate into 10 raised to 6. For the first machine, CPI for the first machine is equal to frequency of the first machine 500 mega 10 raised to 6 divided by MIPS rate 100 into 10 raised to 6 gives you, cancelling out everything, cycles per instructions is 5 for the first machine. Now for the second machine, CPI2 cycles per instructions for the second machine is frequency is 2.5 giga 10 raised to 9 into 10 raised to 6 10 raised to 6 not 10 raised to 6 2.5 giga divided by MIPS rate 1800. Now there is one 10 raised to 6 is also present in the denominator. If I put this, cancels out everything, giving you 1.39. If you roughly estimate this, you can see that cycles per instructions for the second machine is very small compared to this. Now you can see the second machine, whatever is there, it is having larger instructions or more instruction count, not larger instructions, larger instruction count, but the cycles per instruction is very small, or 1.39. If you see the overall performance, the second machine is very fast. It takes only X seconds, whereas the first machine is 12 times slower than the second machine. The first machine is very slow, 12x time it takes to execute. If you see this factor, cycles per instructions for the second machine, we should choose second machine as reduced instruction set computer. Reduced instruction set computer, because cycles per instruction is very small. The first machine, whatever is there, the first machine, it takes 5 instructions per cycle. Hence the first machines can be CISC machine. That's what is the concluding fact. This takes larger time. This is a CISC machine. This is a RISC machine. Okay. This is how you can find the performances of depending upon the MIPS rating and what kind of machine you can choose. All those can be done with the help of the clock, performance and CPU. Okay. I hope you understood. If any doubts are there, 1 or 2 different examples I will post in the group. You can go through that. If any doubts are there, you can put regarding different formulas what I have just given you in this session. Okay. Thank you.